You know that feeling when the money in your pocket just doesn't seem to go as far as it used to? That's inflation. It can feel like this massive, unpredictable economic monster. But what if there was a plan to actually control it? Okay, let's dive right in.
That really is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, how do you get a handle on something so powerful it can shake up entire countries and affect every single one of us? Well, today we're going to look at India's modern rulebook for doing exactly that.
So let's imagine inflation is this huge, powerful dragon. You know, a little bit of heat from it can actually warm up the economy, get things moving. But if you just let it run wild, its fire can cause some serious, serious damage. For a long time, India really struggled with this beast. And just to give you an idea of what that looks like, take a look at this number. Back in 2013, inflation in India shot up to a staggering 11.5%. This was mostly because food prices went through the roof. Everyday essentials started feeling like luxuries, and you could feel that squeeze on family budgets everywhere. That, right there, is the dragon breathing fire. And this isn't just about some numbers on a screen. High inflation literally burns through your savings. It makes it almost impossible to plan for the future, and it creates a ton of uncertainty for businesses. So taming this dragon, it's not just a nice idea, it's absolutely critical for a stable economy. So how did India decide to tackle this? Well, in 2016, they introduced something called the Monetary Policy Framework Agreement, or MPFA. Think of it as a formal strategy, a real game plan to manage inflation systematically, instead of just constantly putting out fires. In the heart of this new strategy is a concept called inflation targeting. It sounds a bit technical, but the idea is actually pretty simple and really powerful. Instead of just reacting to economic news, you give the central bank one clear public mission: keep inflation inside a specific range. You're giving the dragon tamer a very clear target to aim for. And this is the bullseye. The target, which was set by both the government and the Reserve Bank of India, is to keep inflation right around 4%. But of course, there's a little bit of wiggle room, a tolerance band of plus or minus 2%. So the real goal is to keep it somewhere in that safe zone between 2% and 6%. Okay, but how do you even know if you're hitting the target? How do you track the dragon's movements? Well, the main tool for that is the Consumer Price Index, or the CPI. It basically tracks the price changes for a whole basket of things that regular households actually buy. That makes it the best way to see what the real cost of living is doing. So, who are these dragon tamers? It's not just one person making all the calls. It's a whole team of experts, and they're known as the Monetary Policy Committee, or MPC. These are the guardians whose job it is to keep inflation on target. This committee is really designed for balance. You've got 6 members in total. 3 of them are insiders from the Reserve Bank of India, including the governor, and the other 3 are external experts brought in by the government. This mix is supposed to bring different perspectives to the table to make smarter decisions. And their process is super structured. They meet up every 2 months to check the pulse of the economy. Any decision is made by a majority vote, and if there's ever a tie, the RBI governor gets the deciding vote. What's really important is that after every meeting, they publish exactly what they decided and why, so everyone knows what's going on. All right, now there's something we need to clear up. The word inflation has a couple of tricky cousins that often get people confused. It's really important to know the difference, so let's quickly talk about disinflation versus deflation. Let's use an analogy. Think of the economy as a hot air balloon. Inflation is the balloon rising. Now, disinflation, this is the one that gets tricky. It means the balloon is still rising, just not as fast as before. Deflation, on the other hand, is when the balloon is actually losing air and coming down. So disinflation is usually a good sign, while deflation, that can be a real problem. And have you ever heard of the inflation tax? It's a sneaky one. It's not a real tax that the government collects from you. It's more like a silent thief. It's the way that rising prices slowly eat away at the value of the cash you're holding. The 100 rupees in your wallet today might only buy 95 rupees worth of stuff next year. It's a hidden tax on your savings for sure.
Okay, so we've talked about how to measure and manage inflation, but what actually causes it in the first place? Let's take a super quick look at some of the main theories about what makes that dragon move.
Well, there are a few big ideas out there. One is the market power theory, which basically says that big companies without much competition can just decide to raise prices. Then there's demand pull theory. That's the classic too much money chasing too few goods. And finally, structural theory looks at deeper problems in the economy, like messy supply chains that just keep pushing costs up. Whew, we have covered a lot of ground. So, just as we promised, let's lock it all in with a super quick recap of the most important takeaways from our whole discussion. Ready? First off, what exactly is inflation? Simply put, it's a broad, ongoing rise in prices for pretty much everything across the entire economy. It's not just one or two things getting expensive, it's a general trend. Second, what's the cause? At its very core, it's an imbalance. Either there's way too much demand, everybody wants to buy things, or there's not enough supply to go around. Third, how do we track it? The main tool in India's policy kit is the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, because it gives the best picture of how rising prices are actually affecting people's daily lives. Fourth, who's in charge of the whole operation? That would be our inflation guardians, the six-person team called the Monetary Policy Committee. They're the ones making the big calls. And finally, what's the mission? It's crystal clear. Keep the inflation rate in that 2 to 6% range, with the perfect sweet spot being right there at 4%. That goal provides stability for everyone. So India's framework is a really powerful tool for sure, but in an economy that's constantly getting hit by global surprises, from pandemics to wars, it leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. Can any rulebook, no matter how well designed, truly keep that inflation dragon tamed for good?